Hi, this is Jaya. In this video, we shall see the summary of Antony's funeral oration from Julius Caesar, written by William Shakespeare. Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. Lend me your ears means listen to what I am saying. This is the first line of the speech by Mark Antony in the play Julius Caesar by William Shakespeare. These lines occur in Act 3, Scene 2, and it is one of the most famous lines in all of Shakespeare's works. After murdering Caesar, Antony has been allowed by Brutus and the other conspirators to make a funeral oration for Caesar on the condition that Antony will not blame the conspirators for Caesar's death. However, while Antony's speech outwardly begins by justifying the actions of Brutus and the assassins, Antony uses rhetoric and genuine reminders to ultimately portray Caesar in such a positive light that the crowd is enraged against the conspirators. Throughout his speech, Antony calls the conspirators honorable men, his implied sarcasm becoming increasingly obvious. He begins by carefully rebuting the notion that his friend Caesar deserved to die because he was ambitious, instead, claiming that his action were for the good of the Roman people, whom he cared for deeply. Antony says, when the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. That is, if a person is ambitious, they will not cry when a poor man is crying. He denies that Caesar wanted to make himself king, for the people were many who witnessed the Caesar denying the crown 3 times when he offered it to him. As Antony reflects on Caesar's death and the injustice that nobody will be blamed for it, he becomes overwhelmed with emotion and deliberately pauses. He says, "My heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me." As he does this, the crowd begins to turn against the conspirators. Realizing that he has won the audience, he teases the crowd with Caesar's will, which they beg him to read, but he refuses. Antony tells the crowd to have patience and expresses his feelings that he will wrong the honorable men whose daggers have stabbed Caesar if he is to read the will. The crowd, increasingly agitated, calls the conspirators traitors and demands that Antony read out the will. Instead of reading the will immediately, however, he focuses the crowd's attention on Caesar's body, pointing out Caesar's wounds and stressing the conspirators' betrayal of a man who trusted them, in particular the betrayal of Brutus. "Judge, O you gods, how dearly Caesar loved him," says Antony. In response to the passion of the crowd, Antony denies that he is trying to agitate them. "I come not, friends, to steal away your hearts." And he contrasts Brutus, who he calls as an orator, and he says that he himself is a plain, blunt man, implying that Brutus has manipulated them through deceitful rhetoric. He claims that if he were as eloquent as Brutus, he could give a voice to each of Caesar's wounds that should move the stones of Rome to rise and mutiny. After that, Antony deals his final blow by revealing Caesar's will, in which to every Roman citizen he gives, to every several man, 75 drachmas as well as land to the crowd. He ends his speech with a dramatic flourish. "Here was a Caesar, when comes such another?" At which point the crowd begins to riot and search out the assassins with the intention of killing them. Antony then mutters to himself, "Now let it work, mischief, thou art afoot. Take thou what course thou wilt." And here ends Antony's speech. Now let's read his speech which Shakespeare wrote. "Friends, Romans, countrymen, lend me your ears. I come to bury Caesar, not to praise him. The evil that men do lives after them. The goods is oft interred in their bones. So let it be with Caesar. The noble Brutus hath told you Caesar was ambitious. If it were so, it was a grievous fault, and grievously had Caesar answered it. Here, under leave of Brutus and rest, here leave means permission from Brutus, and the rest here means the other conspirators. For Brutus is an honorable man. So are they all honorable men. Come I to speak in Caesar's funeral. He was my friend, that is Caesar, was my friend, faithful and just to me. But Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. He hath brought many captives home to Rome, whose ransoms did the general coffers fill. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious? See, when they have a fight with another country, they will capture many soldiers and they will hold them as captives. And in order to release these soldiers, the other country which has lost the battle will pay for that, and they will take. And that money was so much, and that only was used for the betterment of Rome. And he says all this Caesar did only for Rome, not for himself. Did this in Caesar seem ambitious to Brutus? Because he did this for Rome. When that the poor have cried, Caesar hath wept. Ambition should be made of sterner stuff. He says, I have seen Caesar crying when poor men cried. How can a person who is ambitious cry like this? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and Brutus is an honorable man. You all did see that on the Lupercal I thrice presented him a kingly crown, which he did thrice refuse. Was this ambition? He says in the function of Lupercal, I wanted to make him the king, so 3 times I offered him the crown. All the 3 times Caesar refused. If Caesar was ambitious and if he wanted to become the king, he would have accepted it. But Brutus is saying he is ambitious. Is this ambition to refuse a crown which is offered to him? Yet Brutus says he was ambitious, and sure he, that is Brutus, is an honorable man. I speak not to disprove what Brutus spoke, but here I am to speak what I do know. So he says, I am not here to speak against what Brutus said, but I am going to tell you what I know. You all did love him once, not without cause. See, all of you loved him. And all of you had a cause to love him, because you know that Caesar was doing only good to Rome. What cause withholds you then to mourn for him? So why are all of you are here assembled? And you have believed what Brutus has said. What you should have been doing is mourning for Caesar, because you have loved him once. O judgment, thou art fled to brutish beast, and men have lost their reason. Bear with me. My heart is in the coffin there with Caesar, and I must pause till it come back to me. Here actually he gives a deliberate pause, saying, I am not able to speak because my heart is filled with grief, because Caesar, my friend, is assassinated brutally. And he gives a pause, and it gives time for the audience, the crowd there, to talk among themselves and realize what Antony is saying. Then he continues, he says, but yesterday the word of Caesar might have stood against the world. Now lies he here. There. He says, yesterday Caesar, when he was alive, he was against the whole world. He was such a mighty person. The whole world can stand against him, but Caesar was mighty. But now see, such a mighty person is lying down, assassinated and dead. And none so poor to him to do him reverence. And he's saying not one person is here to do him reverence. O masters, if I were disposed to steer your hearts and minds to mutiny and rage, I should do Brutus wrong and Cassius wrong, who you all know are honorable men. So he says, if I am going to speak, and if I am going to rouse you, and if I am going to make your hearts and minds go up to mutiny and rage, then I will be wronging the people who killed Caesar, who you all know honorable men. I will not do them wrong. He says, I will not wrong them, because they have changed your mind now. I rather chose to wrong the dead, to wrong myself and you, than I will wrong such honorable men. So he says, no. If I am going to bring out the anger in you, if I am going to make you people realize the truth, then I will be doing wrong to Brutus and Cassius, who have killed Caesar and the other conspirators. Rather than doing wrong to them, I will wrong my friend who is dead, I will wrong myself, and I will also wrong you people, because they are all very honored by you all. And here's a parchment with the seal of Caesar. I found it in his closet. It is his will. But let the commons hear this testament, which, pardon me, I do not mean to read. And they would go and kiss dead Caesar's wounds and dip their napkins in his sacred blood, beg a hair of him for memory. He says, this parchment, it is with the seal of Caesar, I found it. And this is actually Caesar's will. And if only if you hear it, you will cry, you will go and you will kiss his wounds, and you will dip your napkins in his blood because his blood is sacred, and you will beg for a hair to keep as his memory. But I don't have the intention of reading the will. And dying, mention it within their wills, bequeathing it as a rich legacy unto the issue. And later on, this napkin or the hair or whatever it is we are going to take from here, you will leave it as a rich legacy to your heirs, and you will mention it in your will. And again he gives some time for the audience to talk among themselves. Now the crowd is curious to know what is in Caesar's will. Have patience, gentle friends. I must not read it. It is not meet you know how Caesar loved you. You are not wood, you are not stones, but men. He is saying, no, I should not read it. Because from that itself, from the will, you will know how much Caesar loved you all. You are all human beings. You are not wood or stones. And if you hear the will, you being a human beings, you will be roused in anger. And being men, bearing the will of Caesar, it will inflame you. It will make you mad. He says you are all human beings. If you hear Caesar's will, you will start burning. You will become mad. It is good you know not that you are his heirs, for if you should, or what would come of it? See, Caesar did not have children. So he says, Caesar has nominated each and every one of you as his heir. You are the one who is going to inherit whatever he had. Now what will you do when you come to know that Caesar had written this in his will? And again he gives a pause and allows the people to talk among themselves. Will you be patient? Will you stay a while? I have overshot myself to tell you of it. I fear I wrong the honorable men whose daggers have stabbed Caesar. I do fear it. He says, I shouldn't have told you about the will, but I have told you. And now he knows that the crowd is now on his side. They are looking at the conspirators as traitors. And so he says, now because I have told you, I think I have wronged the conspirators who have killed Caesar. You will compel me then to read the will? Then make a ring around the corpse of Caesar, and let me show you him that made the will. Shall I descend? And will you give me leave? So he says, okay, now since all of you, now the crowd starts begging him to read the will. And he says, since you are compelling me, I will read. But before reading, come and stand around the dead body of Caesar, and I will show you the wound. And he asks them to give him way so that he can come. If you have tears, prepare to shed them now. You all do know this mantle. I remember the first time ever Caesar put it on. So he says, be ready to cry. And look at the dress, the mantle which he is wearing. And he says, I remember when Caesar put it on first time. It was on a summer's evening in his tent. That day he overcame the Nervi. It was on the day when he won the battle against Nervi. Look, in this place ran Cassius's dagger through. And he shows one wound and he says, this is the place, this is the wound which Cassius created. This is where he ran his dagger through. See what a rent the envious Casca made. And see this wound. This was the wound made by Casca. Through this the well-beloved Brutus stabbed. And as he plucked his cursed steel away, steel here means his dagger, mark how the blood of Caesar followed it. So he says this is the wound made by Caesar. And after stabbing Caesar, when he pulled out the steel, that is his dagger, Caesar's blood also just gushed out after the dagger, as rushing out of doors to be resolved if Brutus so unkindly knocked or no. And why the blood came out means, how it came means as to the doors were opened and the blood just flowed out. And why the blood came out is to really know whether it was Brutus who was the one who stabbed him or not. For Brutus, as you know, was Caesar's angel. Because all of you know that Caesar loved Brutus a lot. He says Brutus was Caesar's angel. Judge, O you gods, how dearly Caesar loved him. Now he says, look at this God, how much Caesar loved him, and see what Brutus has done to him. This was the most unkindest cut of all. See, if all others stabbed Caesar to death, it was because they had some enmity against him, they hated him, they were jealous of him. But Caesar loved Brutus a lot, and Brutus was also very close to him, and Caesar had trust on him. And so he says, if Brutus has stabbed Caesar, then that stab is the unkindest cut among all the other cuts. For when the noble Caesar saw him stab, ingratitude, more strong than traitor's arms, quite vanquished him. So he says, when Caesar saw Brutus stabbing him itself, he would have died. Then burst his mighty heart, his heart would have bursted, and in his mantle muffling up his face, even at the base of Pompey's statue, which all the while ran blood, great Caesar fell. And then he would have covered his face with his mantle, and just at the base of Pompey's statue, great Caesar fell. Oh, what a fall was they, my countrymen. And he's saying, if Caesar is falling down, think what a great fall it is. Then I and you and all of us fell down, whilst bloody treason flourished over us. It is not Caesar who fell, it is I, you, and all of us who fell down, and who was running over that is treason. That is, people have cheated him. He believed them, he trusted them, and they have won by cheating him. Oh, now you weep, and I perceive you feel the dint of pity. These are gracious drops. He's seeing everyone crying and he's saying, see, now you are all crying. And these are gracious drops. Kind souls, what? Weep you when you but behold our Caesar's vesture wounded? Look you here. Here is himself, marred as you see with traitors. He's saying you're all crying. Now you have to see the wounds of Caesar. You have to answer for the wounds of Caesar. See how he has been marred. He has been stabbed by these traitors. Again he gives a pause, allows the crowd to talk, and then he continues saying, good friends, sweet friends, let me not steer you up to such a sudden flood of mutiny. So he says, you're all good friends. I don't want you all to go into mutiny, but this was his real intention. They that have done this deed are honorable. He says, see, the people who killed Caesar say that they are honorable. So you should not go against them. But actually Antony wants everyone to go against them. What private griefs they have, alas, I know not. He is saying, I don't know what enmity they had. But it is their personal enmity which made them to kill Caesar. It is not for Rome or for the Romans. That made them do it. They are wise and honorable, and will, no doubt with reasons, answer you. Because now if you're going to go and talk with these people and ask them why they stabbed Caesar, they are all very intelligent. So they will know what answer to give to you people to satisfy you. I come not, friends, to steal away your hearts. I am no orator as Brutus is. He says, see, I did not come here to win over you people. Because Brutus is a great orator. He can come and even after killing Caesar, he can justify his action in front of you and make you all believe it. I am not like that. But as you know me all, a plain blunt man. See, I am a plain blunt man. I can only tell you what I know. That love my friend and that they know full well. See, I love my friend and all of you know well, and even the conspirators know that. And that is why that gave me public leave to speak of him. Leave here means permission. And because they know that I am a great friend of Caesar and I love my friend, they gave me permission to speak about him in his funeral. For I have neither wit nor words nor worth, action nor utterance nor the power of speech to steer men's breath. Because they know very well I am not intelligent, I don't know how to use my words, I don't know how to use the power of speech to steer you people all to make your blood burn. I only speak right on. I tell you that which you yourself do know. See, I am going to say only the truth. And I am going to tell only things which all of you know. I am not going to tell you any lies. Show you sweet Caesar's wounds, poor dumb mouths, and bid them speak for me. But were I Brutus and Brutus Antony, they were, and Antony would ruffle up your spirits and put a tongue in every wound of Caesar, that should move the stones of Rome to rise and mutiny. If only I was Brutus, if I had the talent of Brutus to speak, then I would have made each and every wound of Caesar to speak to you people, and even the stones in Rome will rise to mutiny. And again he gives a pause, makes the people to discuss. Now the crowd is angry and they want to take revenge on the conspirators. And how he says, why, friends, you go to do you know not what? Wherein hath Caesar thus deserved your loves? Alas, you know not. I must tell you then. You have forgot the will I told you of. Now all of them want to go and take revenge on the conspirators, but he stops them because he knows he has to fully prepare the crowd. So he says, I know, you all know now that Caesar loved you all, but thing is, you all forgot about the will. Don't you want to hear it? Again he gives a pause, and when everyone asks him to read the bill, he says, moreover, he hath left you all his walks, his private arbours, and new planted orchards on this side Tiber. He hath left them you and to your heirs for ever, common pleasures to walk abroad and recreate yourself. Here was a Caesar. When comes such another? So he says what all Caesar has left for the people and for their generation. And he says everything Caesar, whatever Caesar had earned, wherever Caesar fought and whichever he won, what all he brought to Rome and what all he had, everything is given only to your people and your children. And here it says, here was one Caesar. When will Rome see another Caesar like him? Because he is a man of such a great heart. And now all the people are angry and they run to take revenge on these conspirators. And alone Antony says, now let it work mischief, thou art afoot. Take thou what course thou wilt. Now he says, now I have made the people turn against the conspirators and mischief is going to work. And let me see what course this mischief is going to do in Rome. And here ends his speech. If you have anything more to add on to what I've said, please write it in the comment box. Like the video, share it with your friends. And if you have not subscribed my channel, please subscribe and support. Thank you.